Yeah, I mean, I think there's good energy. I think this time of year it's kind of crazy. They start really really well. They also tire out really quickly. It's just kind of that time of year where it wanes over time. So you have to be careful about how long you go because you lose them at a certain point. There's always I think there's always excitement about playing a team you haven't played. You kind of get tired, especially in our league where you truly do play a home and home, and then you're playing someone for the third time in the tournament. So playing someone that's different, that you kind of have to learn their tendencies, and maybe they don't know you as well, and you're gathering information. So I think there's excitement in that.
What have you, I mean, you kind of broke down Alabama a little bit the other night, but what have you kind of seen more from them as you guys studied?
Yeah, I mean, they were on a losing streak or have been, but I think that when you look at those games outside the Mississippi State game, they've been games that have come down to possessions at the end of the game and where they were right there. Mississippi State just really made a lot of shots and got up big, and they cut it, to 9, but couldn't quite get over the hump and put more pressure on them. But I just think their spacing is really, really good offensively. We talked about their shooting, which obviously, like, anyone can look at the analytics and their statistics and say, but it's how they get to those shots. It's with great spacing. It's with 4 guards basically all the time. They're going to be interchangeable, and that's, getting our players to understand. One of the things that I think sometimes helps players is if there's someone you've played, especially in the league, a couple times that you're, hey, Barker plays a little bit like Ashley Jones. She's not Ashley Jones. She doesn't necessarily make as many threes or is as high volume a scorer, but she's going to up and under you. She's going to back you down with the dribble, like really trying to get them to understand some of their tendencies based on like what we're used to seeing and have a comfort zone with. And so, I think it really comes down to like our ball screen defense has to be really, really good, and we've got to guard them. Quite frankly, we got to get our feet outside the arc. It's not good enough with kids like Nye to be there on the catch. You got to have a hand up on the catch, and you got to be outside the 3-point line because she's an analytic wonder. Like, you talk about someone that really is a special analytical player. That's Nye.
You mentioned kind of getting to play new competition. How much do you take from like the non-conference competition, like Arizona and Maryland that you played earlier this year, into the tournament right now?
Well, hopefully nothing since we lost both of those. I think that it's not. Arizona's hard to look back at because we didn't really show up for that game and didn't play well. I thought Maryland, we were still very much in who are we? We lost Asia. We're getting Caitlin back. So I don't think it's about non-conference. I think it's about hey, this is a new opponent. It's an opponent that we have a lot of respect for. It's a neutral site game. It's like going to Florida and playing Villanova. It's like going to Florida and playing Michigan. We're gonna have to compete. We certainly, both teams have a ton of prep. You get to a certain point in the year and you're always on 2-day prep or 1-day prep, and so to have a week of prep, like, are you getting bored? Trying to keep them motivated with shooting and some drills, because it's very easy to like want to, in some ways, over prepare. Because as a coach, you just rarely get this much time for one opponent. But, I think it's today we'll keep it really, really short since we've gone 2 days hard, and then we'll have 2 more days before we play them. So it'll be about kind of tapering today and just, preparing us to get on the road this evening.
Coach, you even said in Kansas City a big theme for the team is just the maturation of your players and how them playing together. You have a lot of new players, obviously, but do you sense that there's maybe going to be a different level of that you'll have to see this weekend versus what you saw in the Big 12 tournament? Because I feel like they took a big step in the Big 12 tournament competing with the champions. So.
Yeah, I think anytime you're in a lose and go home situation. I think your focus has to be better. I think your effort has to be better. I think you can't let bad plays snowball, and I think because that'll get you beat real quick in the tournament. We've got to have a short memory in terms of mistakes and moving on and fixing them, correcting them. But I think that Alabama doesn't have a ton of kids with a ton of NCAA experience, any different than our team. I mean, really, a lot of our team doesn't have NCAA tournament experience. So I think, that's there's no advantage in that first round matchup that way. Brittany Davis for them has played. Barber has played, but the majority of their team with transfer situations isn't that dissimilar from ours. And so, I think our freshmen will probably be a little nervous. But I think the good part about them is I think when the ball gets tipped up and they start playing, you lose that. And personally, I think nerves are good. I just think, there's not a game that I coach that I'm not nervous, and it doesn't matter if it's a preseason game against the 280th ranked team or a top 25 matchup. I think that's part of wanting to play well and wanting to perform well and wanting. I just think we really have to be focused, have a lot of energy, be really good on the boards. I used the terminology with my team yesterday, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So that was entertaining. But I said, you know what they say, travels. And they looked at me like, who travels? What travels? What do you mean, who? And I said, defense and rebounding, that's what travels. You don't always you don't always make shots, but you can defend and rebound anywhere in any gym. And so really being focused on those two things, I think can give us a chance to compete in any game.
Yeah. Do you think I'll even focus on rebounding a lot more, given the last,
Well, we have a drill called war rebounding, and believe me, it's been on the table yesterday. Monday, it'll be on the practice plan today. It'll be on the practice plan tomorrow. We may not do it on Friday because you're always worried that the war part of the rebounding leads to elbows, and we have certain players that fall a lot that we're working on getting them to not fall, but you don't want to fall the day before a game. But yes, it definitely a point is being made. I'm sure the men have had a lot of good rebounding drills as well. When they got out rebounded by almost 30 against Iowa State, I guess we were just trying to make them feel better. I don't know, because that hasn't been us, and we've been out rebounded before, but not dominated. I mean, we weren't dominated on the boards by Texas, who's bigger, stronger, longer. So we just have to have a different attitude about it.
Nikki, we've talked a lot about the way you guys have played outside of Waco this year. I mean, to me, two of your best, maybe most energetic performances were in Ames, in Austin, really big crowds. I mean, you'll probably get a big crowd even for the first round game. You mentioned how much the fans love women's basketball. Is there just a switch that this team kind of hits where they just feed off of that? Or?
I'd like to say it's not a switch because you don't. You want to teach your team that you can't turn it on and off. Good players don't turn it on. The light's always on. You don't have to. But I think that I do think there's a different focus. There's a different synergy, a different level of working together, of communicating better because the crowd's louder. So we're communicating earlier on defense to help a teammate out. Stuff that we should be doing all the time, but I think we'll get a teammate blown up on a back screen if you're not talking early. I saw, particularly in the Texas game, probably the most growth I've ever seen in Sarah in terms of her communication in the huddles on the court. I mean, we had people in foul trouble. We had, and seeing her, tell Bella, it's all right, let it go. Really, I could see it. You could see it on film, watching it back. And she's just not a natural vocal leader, and something we've certainly asked her to do. And I think probably the nature of her being in control of her own game made it easier. I think that so often when players are struggling themselves and they're trying to like regain their own composure, their own focus, I think growth in our point guards is like, hey, even when you're not having your best game, are you talking to everybody else? And it'll get you almost out of your own way. Like sometimes talking to other people will get you out of your own feelings if you're missing shots, if you've turned it over. And so we talk a lot about do we have positive self-talk out there? Do we have positive, are we saying, hey, I know you missed that last one. You're going to make the next one. I think that's good teammates do that. Good teammates like can look someone in the eye and say, you're going to make your next shot, or let that one go, so, yeah, I mean, I do think we more naturally do that when we almost have to, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it, and I think that helps us. And I'd like to believe that, UConn playing before us, that, those fans are going to stick around and want to see, assuming UConn wins, which I don't assume anything in the tournament, but that they'll want to see, who their next round matchup is.
You mentioned the four guards. Alabama uses kind of interchangeable. Or do they have the bigger guards or much of the bigger guard? Because y'all struggled some.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really big. I would say Barker is a swing player. She kind of plays the 3 or the 4 for them. And, I think she's probably their biggest. And, I described her as a little Ashley Jones-like, but she's got some Shea Holly, like, length and toughness about her. But I think other than that, most of their guards are, 5'5" to 5'9", so they're not in that 5'11" to 6'1" range. Not that they don't bring anyone in with size, but, they're not different than some of the teams we've played, say, Kansas State, that's got big guards everywhere. This isn't a team that really posts their guards. They're all about spacing on the perimeter and ball screening with their center Rice and just they do a really good job. I mean, I love kind of system-wise some of the things that they're doing to move people around to get into their ball screen actions. They ball screen almost as much as we do, but they really are typically in what I would call an outset, where they're 5 out and someone's setting a ball screen. So they rarely have a player in the lane until they roll them, cut them. But they're going to move those pieces around to get to those ball screens. There's tons of staggers and pin downs and rescreens, and so they have a lot of different plays, but a lot of it's the same. So it'll come down to, are we good defending staggers and understanding personnel, and we're there on the catch, and then do we guard their ball screens well, and whether that's kind of small forward on our guards, or whether it's, that Rice, who kind of plays more of the traditional center for them, that our coverages are really, really good.
You mentioned the other day, I think that, Christy Curry along.
Mm-hmm.
Where did y'all's paths cross?
Well, coaching is like a small world, but, I had met, Christy and Kelly, when you're in this profession and you're married and you're in coaching and you work with your spouse, you tend to know those people. Had met Christy and Kelly kind of that way. Like I'd played at Purdue, and that's where Christy kind of, had her breakthrough in coaching. When she left and went to Texas Tech, though, my college roommate, who was a manager for us at Purdue, was her SID. She had been the SID for Marcia Sharp, and then she became the SID for Christy Curry. And so, when this matchup happened, Tammy right away was like, oh my gosh, 2 of my favorite people, meeting up in the first round. And so, she's a good person in this profession. And so I just, kind of have followed her career and even talked to her about, certainly Jordan Lewis when that whole thing was happening. She definitely wanted Jordan Lewis to stay and play her last year there, but she understood that she'd not only graduated from there, but got a master's from there and probably shouldn't ask for a sixth year out of her, even though she would have liked it. So, just a really good person in this profession.
Coach, when you guys come back, this is kind of like the last time you guys will come back either, out in a specific round or come back champions. What have you learned this season as a coach, just kind of going through those trials and tribulations?
I said this, every year is different. I always said, like, my first year as a head coach in the pros, it was like everything turned to gold that year. We were 17-0 and leading going into the fourth quarter. Like, that's unheard of in the pros. Like, we were like 11-2 and games decided by 5 points or less. Like, we just had a lot of things go right, until Angel McCautry blew her knee out, and which then ultimately affected our second year, and we go from the best record in franchise history to 8 wins, and those numbers were like flipped. And I always said, like, between those 2 years, we probably weren't as good as our record the first year, and we weren't as bad as our record the second year. It's the difference between did you win close games and why, because it was kind of the script was flipped. And so, like, I look at this year not like that, because we certainly aren't an 8-win team and we haven't done this flip. But I think that, we ended up last year only having 7 players that really played. And other than Sarah's broken hand that we played through, we were unscathed. We started the same lineup in every game all season long. The basketball gods were on our side in a lot of ways. We almost never had players missing in practice. Like, this year has been a free-for-all. We've had players missing the last 2 days of practice that I hope will be back today. So between COVID and injuries and kids missing 1 game here, and, it's been the biggest challenge for me has been practice planning, in all honesty, because oftentimes I find out yesterday, 30 minutes before practice, someone's not going, and that kind of changes the whole dynamic of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so, I think it's a part of it for me is like I have control issues. I think most coaches probably do. But it's kind of like control what you can control. And I think this year it's just coach the heck out of who's available and what you can get out of them, and be prepared to move on when you can't get something out of someone, and then circle back to them. And at times with foul trouble, like you see fun breakthroughs when you see a Kyla Abraham come into the Texas game and give you good minutes. But believe me, I didn't have necessarily plans to play Kyla. The game dictated that, and certainly you go to her because it's a game where they had size, and so we needed to bring in size rather than at times I've played Cat at the 4, when we've had foul trouble. We've just kind of had to work with what we have and learn to move on. When you lose 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row, like it's about staying motivated, because you can easily turn 3 losses in a row into 4 wins in a row, and it takes 1 win to make players feel that mojo again. So kind of trying to be creative at how we're motivating. And even for me, like I think I told you guys this, but at Texas, like I'm not a, people aren't going to come in the locker room and think I give like the greatest pregame speeches. Like I'm not Vince Lombardi, and I'm, it just like, doesn't mean I don't have energy, but, I'm very much here's the game plan. Let's, give them the reminders that they need. Like, just a review and like touch points to go back out there. But, when we were at Texas, it was like, let me not go over the game plan, and let's just talk about being tough, and let me give my best speech. And I think I said it like, Chloe was like, "Coach, that was awesome," and I'm like, really? Because that team, they all looked like they had blank stares on their face, except Dre and Asia. Like, Dre and Asia were, like, ready to go. And I'm like, but they don't get to check in. They don't have a uniform. So, but to see us come out and play with such good energy and toughness, which was kind of the key word of that speech, I've had to, learn to grow in those areas, too, and figure out, okay, what does this team need right now, and what do they need from me? I've spent a lot of time off the court with this team. Like, this is just not in necessarily a bad way, but generationally, these kids are pretty high maintenance, and it's not always the X's and O's, and it's what's going on in the classroom and what's going on, with boyfriends and significant others and all the things, and so. They really need those touch points. Because otherwise it becomes like a quote, a business. And I think we run our program anything like a business, but there's no doubt that, like in coaching, you don't stick around a long time if you don't win. So there's obviously a business component to what we do, but you've got to get them to get to the point where they compete and believe in competing. Welcome.
It's kind of like a win or go home. I feel like that's what we've always done. Same thing with the Big 12. I kind of, in my mind, just so I stay calm, I don't try to put too much pressure, every game's the same game. You know what I'm saying? You look at what's in front of you, and if you go in with the mindset of attack mindset, that's all that matters. As soon as you take care of business as a team, as an individual, on to the next game because we're handling what's in front of us.
Bella, you guys have had a little more time to prepare for this game. What's just been practice has been like this?
Practice has been intense, but we've also been very intentional at the same time, focusing on just rebounding and executing and really making sure that we're locked in so that when we get out on the court, we can really come together as a team and just execute the game plan.
What have those rebounding drills been like?
Ooh,
Or rebounding.
yeah.
Cold
it's-
War for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it's making us tougher, so.
And you were talking about attacking. Y'all were so good in that last game at the screen and roll type stuff. Was that specifically for Iowa State, or should that be a big part of y'all's package?
I think that's just a part of our package. I feel like we have great shooters out on the perimeter, but we also have great straight line drivers of just getting to the rim, making them combine in, get in there, and then we kick it out. I think that was something that we did do good, but we can get better at. I think that's our game that we can really step up a few notches.
And the other thing y'all did really well in that game against Iowa State, to me, was just defensive energy and you blocked the shots. Sarah had a couple blocks. I mean, what happened in those last 4 minutes that you guys have to clean up? Because obviously, they got a couple open looks.
Yeah, well, they got a few. I think we just went away from what we do best, and we let them do what they do best. If we want to keep it like that simple, the whole game we were being pretty solid. We gave up more threes than we wanted to overall, but I think the whole game we were just pretty solid on just playing our team defense, of just rotating on a string and all of us being connected. And then I think just the last 2-4 minutes, we just went away from ourselves.
Is there any better feeling than as a little guard getting a block, like a big player?
I mean, I always love it because it's just like you wouldn't really expect a 5'8" guard, to jump up and block a shot. Normally it's like a Bella or Bugs or you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's always fun. I think I get more lit when I see Say do it because she had that little serious face after. So, I don't know. That always makes me happy.
This is a big guard right here, though. No little guards. We don't have little guards.
I try.
Like it.
And then touching on the offensive side, too, it seemed like the ball movement kind of freed you up to have a big first half there. Are you hoping to kind of carry that into the tournament and maybe turn in another performance just like that?
I'm hoping to do what my team needs. If that's knock down some threes, which they don't really be needing that from me because we got everybody else to do that one, I'm going to do it. I think just how my team played very well, and it just led to me having open shots, just whatever they need. If that's no threes from me, all assists or layups or getting them where they need it, I'm going to do that one, whatever they need.
And Bella, is that kind of the same mindset for you? You know, obviously, I think it was after the TCU game that Nikki said, you know, she just wanted you to take those threes, like when they're open. Is that kind of your mindset going into these games now?
Absolutely. Still, finding a balance, still being aggressive, taking open shots when you have them, but also knowing when you're not playing into their game plan or taking the shot that they want you to take, I feel like is really key too. But absolutely, if we're open and it's a good look, we've got some ball movement and a paint touch, we're going to shoot it.
A couple of y'all's best games were like at Ames, at Austin, where there were a lot of fans there. It was intense. Is there like a different focus in those kind of atmospheres, and is that something maybe you can
That
take
is
confidence
so
in
funny.
UConn? You know.
Coach Tony says that to us all the time.
Yes.
Coach Tony says he likes coaching us when we play away because it's like a different type of locked in. We haven't really put our finger on why. You would think we would always play best at home, but I don't know. It's something about when we're away. He's always talking about like when he's in the huddle and he's talking to us like how zoned in and locked in we are. So I think this is kind of exciting. We only have away games from now on, so maybe it'll be our best basketball. I'm hoping this is a great time for that to happen.
Is there a little bit us against them mentality, like when you go on the road, particularly when there's big
Yeah.
crowds like that?
I honestly want to say it's kind of us against everybody. Nobody really expects us to do great, if we're going to be honest. Everybody in the media, everything. So I think it's kind of us together. And then if we're together, then we can take on anything.
Nikki says one of the best feelings as a basketball player, agree or disagree, is when you're on the road and you like silence.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Imagine Iowa State's gym being quiet.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
It feels great.
Yeah.
But hey,
No, that's good. That was the question, basically.
yeah, that was probably one of the best feelings, I'd say. Yeah, just in general.
I asked Coach this too, the lessons she kind of took away as a coach during this season. The next time you guys return here, you'll either exit in a specific round or come back champions. What lessons, this is for both of you too, have you learned this season as players, just kind of with the trials and tribulations you've had?
I'll go. Mine is kind of just stay in the moment. I think it's so easy to get like overwhelmed with what seed are we going to be? This and that. This is going to affect us this way. Like knowing God's in control. I think that's one thing. I know me and Bella's faith is really strong, so we always like talk about that. But I think of just having faith, and He put us in this situation for a specific reason. Don't question it. Like of course we'd want to be a 1 seed, 2 seed, but we're in the seed that we're supposed to be in because God put us there, and I have no question. But I think we're going to end up great.
Kind of building off of that, which is very well said. I mean, one thing that Coach has said is a big theme for y'all this year is just maturing, whether you have tournament experience or not. So, I mean, building off of what you just said, what are some of the ways y'all have kind of matured, maybe even the last couple of weeks or even last week with the Big 12? And, like, have y'all been able to see growth in both y'all's games just on and off? And, I mean, what has that been like for both y'all this year?
I would say I definitely have had some opportunities to mature the past couple weeks. One of the biggest things for me is being able to just go with something when someone says that to me. In the past few weeks, I've had a lot of opportunities to grow in that area. I'm the type of person, from the very beginning of the season, Nikki's like, Bella has paralysis by analysis, and she always wants to know why we're doing things and ask questions. But whenever my upperclassmen and my point guard and whoever it is tells me to do something, I need to just go with it and do it. So I feel like I've had a lot of opportunities to do that and grow. But also just within communication with them itself, being on the court, just making sure that we're locked in and on the same page so we can execute together.
Jaden, I think it's the first time in a few games we've been able to talk to you. Is your plan to use that COVID year and come back for another go-round?
Yeah, it is.
Good deal.
Yep.
We wouldn't let her not do it.
Yeah, I think Bella would show up at my doorstep every
Yeah.
day.
Every day. So, Jaden,
What you doing?
I'll see you at practice.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Actually,
Perfect.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank y'all.